Hello, our next tutorial is called Place a Photo or Image in Text in Photoshop. Again, with the other tutorials, I'm not going to read straight from the tutorial. Hopefully you can combine the written instructions and my video instructions and help to make this make more sense. I have a photo from Lake Shawnee. It's kind of a cloudy day photo, but I think it's a pretty neat photo. It shows some of our photography students from several years ago out snapping pictures and getting textures and good shots of all different things. We're going to take this photo and we're just going to drag it into Photoshop. Again, remember with all the tutorials, if you're using a photo, uh-oh, it's not even going to let me, there we go. If you're using a photo that is not your own, that was not taken from a good quality camera, you need to make sure that, oh, and strangely that's cut off. We'll just crop that real fast. Well, we'll try. Nope, we're going to use our rectangle selection, and we're going to select the inverse, and we're going to cut it. Okay, and then it's really not going to matter for this assignment, but instead of cropping it, I'm just going to kind of move this photo down and center it. So I know this looks strange to you. Yours should fill the whole space. But using a good quality photograph is really important on this assignment so that it's not blurry or pixelated. Mine is really pretty big. It's like 36 inches across by maybe like 20 inches this way. So a good size photograph. Okay, now notice on the instructions, we are working with putting a word on top of this, and I think we'll put, let's just do Topeka. I have another example on the server of Kansas, excuse me, but we're going to use Topeka for this one for Lake Shawnee. So I'm going to come over here, and you can see right off the bat, you've opened your photo in Photoshop. You have, you're supposed to duplicate that background layer, which we've been doing several times already. So we're going to Command J that, and we get a copy of what we're doing. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a new layer. Now, depending on which layer you're clicked on is where the new layer will go. The new layer will always arrive directly above the currently selected layer. So if my blue is here, if I have this selected and I hit Create New Layer, it goes in the middle. I'm going to Command Z that. If I have this selected and I hit Create New Layer, it's going to go on the top. Command Z. Sometimes that is irrelevant. For this assignment, they are telling you, hey, we want this guy right in the middle. So we're just going to click here, and then we're going to Create New Layer, and it goes right into the center of my two copies. The next thing I need to do is on that new layer, I see my checkerboard, gray and white checkerboard, which means it's transparent. For this tutorial, we need to be white. So I need to edit, fill. It's already white on here, but it could have come in for you as black or 50% gray or foreground or background, or choose a color. Just slide down to white, okay, and say okay. Now, that layer, we normally on here on these instructions, you wouldn't see anything happen or any white. We can see the white because our photo is not the full size, but that's okay. We're going to just leave it as it is. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay, going back over here, we are going to, we need to title this Layer 1. We need to title this Layer 2. And that's just so we can follow along with these instructions exactly as they're intended. Okay, so I have my layers titled correctly. Actually, this one, it should still say background. Since I edited it originally, it doesn't, but we'll change it back to background. Now I'm going to go over here. I need to be on Layer 1. I need to select the Type tool. I can hit T on the toolbar, or I can hit the letter T on my keyboard. And I need to choose a font that is kind of big and bold so that as much of my photograph as possible will show through on my letter. So I'm going to pick Gills Sand Ultra Bold, and I might want to change that if I get in here and it's not what I want. I might want to, see I'm at 72 for my font, and look how tiny my cursor is. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say 250. and see what we get. Still pretty small. Heck, let's go 500 on this. So I'm going to select 500 and I can start typing. Ooh, that's way too big. Let's choose a different one and see if we can find something that's more appropriate. How about this one? And still pretty big. Let's change this back to 200. Let's stick with this Cooper Standard Black, and let's hit Topeka. It's not my favorite font, but that's okay. We're gonna change it anyway. We're gonna make our text box the size of the font. Okay. Excuse me, I should have made this white. I'm highlighting Topeka, double clicking here and selecting white. That is our white font. Now I'm gonna go back to the Move tool, and then I'm going to hit Command T, and I'm going to do that because I want to be able to adjust the size of the word without playing around with the size of the font. I can just visually make choices. Okay, so I've selected the word Topeka, and now I've transformed it. I hit Enter to make the box go away. Okay, this is basically what they've done here. They've readjusted the word Hawaii. They've got a very basic bold font over the top of that. It fits their photograph really nicely. Our photograph is a little bit different size, but that's okay. We're going to stick with this. And we're going to now take our, notice here, step 11, take your text layer and you're going to drag it under your layer 1, and then we don't see it, and that's okay. That's what's supposed to happen. So we should now see layer 1, text layer Topeka, layer 2, and background. Come down here to step number 12. I click back on layer 1, and this is important. You have to be on layer 1. Now you go over here to Layer, Create a Clipping Mask, and boom, there you have it. Our Topeka is showing through. I'd like to drop down here, select Topeka, and move this guy just a little bit, and maybe we can get just a little bit more of Lake Shawnee. I think that shows up pretty good. And I can kind of play with that as much as I want or as little as you want, however that works for you. I'm going to stay on the Topeka layer. And on that same layer, so this is what it looks like now, layer 1 shifted over because it is a layer mask. Topeka, layer 2, background. Now I'm going to come over here while I'm on Topeka, and I'm going to select Drop Shadow. FX is you're affecting the layer. Drop Shadow. And you can see I've got lots of options here. I actually like when the drop shadow goes the other way. Just preference. You can totally do it however you want. And then you can play with the distance, the size, and the spread as to how that layer is going to, or how that drop shadow is going to look. I kind of think because it's this gloomy, hazy day, a sharp drop shadow actually might be more appropriate. In some other instances, a softer drop shadow might be more appropriate. Well, I think I kind of like this. I could change the color of my drop shadow. The opacity is only at 75%. That makes it even darker. I do typically leave it at 75%. It's defaulted in Photoshop. Distance, spread, and size, I change that based on whatever it is I'm working on and how it looks. The angle, you can change that at will. Again, it's just personal preference for me to have it on the top left-hand side, kind of like the 10 o'clock position, you could say. You shouldn't really need to mess with this, the contour on this. We will talk about contour later on in other assignments. So I select OK, and you can see that I have that background layer, or excuse me, that drop shadow effect on the Topeka layer. And that's it. That's the end of this tutorial. That's the final outcome of how that should look. I could crop this maybe and get rid of some of this extra white space around here, which I probably should do. Let's see if we can't. Ooh. Let's see if we can't change that. Looks like I'm going to have trouble changing that. So we will have to do that in another tutorial. So for now, leave it as you want, and you have your word on there with your drop shadow, and you have done place a photo or image in text using Photoshop. So I hope this made sense. Again, make sure to save your tutorial, your assignment. Save as. In this case, for this semester, it was titled last name #3 PSD on the desktop as a Photoshop document, and hit save. Of course, it's going to pop up over here. Be sure to always put that onto the server. Remember, on your desktop is not turned in. It's not turned in until you actually put it onto the server. So thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. Bye-bye.